What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here, and today we are going to be showcasing the latest Destiny 2 news. Not only bringing you guys the news, but also analyzing what that news means for you and the future of Destiny. Now, very quickly, I am back from vacation. I went to GuardianCon 2017. It was so fun, so nice meeting a lot of you guys, and then went to the family cabin for a few days, but I'm back, so regular content will resume. Now on to the news, and the first thing I want to talk about is something that can fit in a tweet but is so impactful, especially for you PvE players out there. Now this news is that some activities in Destiny 2 will have locked loadouts. Now, what exactly is a locked loadout? Well, what that is that when you start that activity, and once you get in that activity, that loadout you have, so those weapons and armor that you have, you can't change them. You have to do the entire activity with that loadout. Now, of course, the slight downside of this is that it does somewhat reduce the amount of customization and the fact that you can change on the fly and put on, a shotgun when you need it or a fusion rifle when you need that, and then keep changing depending on the activity or depending on the encounter in that activity, I should say. But the good news is that this opens, again, a wealth of possibilities for you PvE players. And to best describe how big of a deal this is, let's use an example. Imagine the Wrath of the Machine raid right now. If I was to ask you guys, what should I use in the Wrath of the Machine? A shotgun or a sniper? I guarantee you guys watching would have different answers. Well, a shotgun is really good in, Axis Phase 1. It's actually really good in Vosik, considering how many ads you have to take down. But a sniper is also good in Vosik, DPSing him, and a sniper is much better in Axis Phase 2, so it depends on the activity. But now you're going to have to make that decision right up front at the very beginning of the raid, and you're going to have to stick with that decision. And that means that there's going to be a hugely awesome dedicated loadouts in Destiny 2. You're going to have people on your raid team dedicated to take down ads. Like have people with, a shotgun, with a hand cannon, with explosive rounds, and with an auto rifle, like purely dedicated for ad clearing. And then you're going to have other people on your raid team with like a sniper, with a scout, with triple tap, with all that stuff dedicated for taking down bosses, for just DPSing the crap out of bosses. That's what they're meant for. And that I think is really awesome. And, just for me, I'm excited to make videos on that. It's going to be really awesome to have these dedicated loadouts for going into potentially raid activities or nightfall activities or whatever actual activities when Destiny 2 ships will have these locked loadouts. So this is going to make PvE feel really diverse and unique, and you're going to have a much different experience going through a raid with different dedicated loadouts. So I think in the end, this is a pretty good change. Moving on from there, IGN has a deal with Bungie, so they're going to be showing off new Destiny 2 stuff pretty much every day up into the beta. And yesterday they showed off a tour of the new social space called The Farm. This is essentially the area that humanity has fled to after they had to evacuate and abandon the last city, which was taken over by the Cabal. It's an area that existed before this, like they didn't set up camp solely because they were traveling away from the last city, but there has always been people living on the outskirts, living in the wilds of Earth, not just confined to the last city. So some of the characters that we meet there, for one, Hawthorne has been living there out in the wilds for a long time. Now, some of the highlights of this social space are, firstly, it's actually going to evolve as you progress through the game. Bungie was commenting and saying that more people will show up at the farm, like more refugees, more people will set up homes in the farm as you continue with the campaign, and characters will come and go throughout the campaign. So that's really interesting, and it kind of brings up the question, if your friend who just starts joins you in the farm, whose version of the farm are they going to have? The player who just started or you at the end of the game? And that's kind of an interesting question, but I'm sure we'll see when the full game releases. Now, they only showed off 2 NPCs during this visit to the farm. One was the Postmaster, so that is making a return in Destiny 2, and the other was the Cryptarch, Tyra Karn. Now, right now, she is the Cryptarch for the Iron Temple. So that's actually pretty interesting because a lot of people were wondering, well, with the tower and the last city destroyed, what about the Iron Temple? Like, is that fine? And that's actually a really interesting question that hasn't necessarily been answered in full. But if Tyra Karn is here in the farm, maybe that points to the fact that the Iron Temple won't be a social space in Destiny 2, at least at launch. If it was, she'd likely be there. So likely the farm is going to be the only social space. And since we're on the subject of the Iron Temple, in another IGN video that we're going to talk about later on, you can actually see the player in the Iron Temple. This speaker-like area is actually in the Iron Temple. You can see some of the icicles coming off of it. So it is a playable space in Destiny 2, at least for one mission. That's really sweet. Moving on from there, they also showed off soccer. Yes, you can play full-fledged soccer while you wait for your friends to finally sort out their vaults. But interestingly enough, after they showed this off, they discussed other activities that you could do in the farm that would gain you strange benefits and abilities. They described specifically an activity that you could do that would make you run faster than normal. And they said that they're not going to show off any of these activities yet, but the more time you spend in the farm exploring, the more activities and potentially, places to jump to and then unlock something crazy for your character, like a glow or again the ability to run fast, you'll learn. And then obviously those will trickle down throughout the community and more people will be doing them, but that's kind of just a cool amount of Easter eggs that people can find in this new social space, and I'm definitely in favor of that. Anything that makes you spend more time in the game, for me, is a good thing. Now, some more very interesting news about this social space. It's been upgraded to hold up to 28 Guardians. This is compared to the 16 that can currently be in the tower at one time in Destiny 1. Now, even more interesting than that, the farm is going to be made available to play in the beta for exactly 1 hour at 10 a.m. Pacific on July 23rd. You'll be able to go into this social space, play soccer, check out the vendors, find as many Easter eggs as you possibly can before it is cut off from players until the full release on September 6th. But that's basically Bungie kind of testing the servers and testing what's going to happen if all 28 Guardians with, let's be honest, varying internet connections are going to be in one place at the same time. And 28 people, like, that's insane. That is really going to make the farm a more vibrant social space. Now, a couple more interesting things about the farm. Right behind the Cryptarch, you can see 2 vaults. So vaults are very much returning in Destiny 2, and it was also shown off that there's a hangar where they're rebuilding sparrows and ships for humanity's fight back against the Cabal. And this will no doubt be a center for, well, firstly Amanda Holiday if she does survive, and other NPCs. We also saw without Shaxx, but where Shaxx will likely be if he does survive in the farm. They're rebuilding the Crucible bots that help Shaxx secure areas for the Crucible to be fought in and just generally help with maintenance and other things. So this is going to be the Crucible Quartermaster location likely. Now, moving on from there, we had a few more Destiny 2 videos coming out. The first one being an interview with IGN and Bungie, and the second one being the official Destiny 2 beta launch trailer. Now, in the IGN interview, at the very beginning, there was what looked like potentially an exotic weapon. At least I've seen a lot of people say so. This very well could be. It looks very cool, looks very Kvostov-like. However, I'm not entirely convinced, and the reason being is because back when I got to play Destiny 2 at the world premiere, there was an auto rifle that looked eerily similar to what we're seeing right here, as you can see in the background now. So this seems to be just a style of some of the guns, probably a foundry within Destiny 2. This honestly like Russian AK-47 style of weapon within Destiny 2. So those look so similar, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a scout rifle version of the foundry that auto rifle was. Now moving on from there, Bungie talked a lot about how lore would play a function in Destiny 2, saying that the lore in Destiny 1, well, it really wasn't too accessible, and although there was some really big lore fanatics that will consume every piece of lore information, that was definitely the minority. The majority of people are not reading Grimoire cards, and so in Destiny 2, Bungie is really stepping up the in-game lore, saying that there's going to be a ton of interactions within the game. In a previous news video, I talked about how there's going to be more scannable objects. We can scan these different objects within the world, and then your ghost talks about them. That was introduced in the Taken King, and there was a little bit more in the Rise of Iron. Those are going to be even more in Destiny 2, but also Luke Smith talked about how gear, like exotic gear, would be a great way to tell some of the lore in Destiny 2. Is that the description isn't just some silly description, is that it's actually a pretty big chunk of lore about that exotic weapon, or potentially the events surrounding where it was used or potentially created. So that is really cool. Luke Smith also talked about how in Destiny 1, one of the main complaints was involving progression, right? Like, why am I doing this activity? What's the purpose of doing this? What is this leading up to? And again, this is totally legitimate. I think a lot of people, especially with the raids, why are you doing the raid? Well, to get the raid loot. Well, then you get the raid loot, and then what? Well, you just do the raid again, right? Why do you see certain activities? Well, what's the progression? Where's the end game? These were legitimate questions that did upset people within Destiny 1. Luke Smith said that they're very much aware of that. In Destiny 2, we'll have a much more pointed and obvious progression system. You're doing this activity to advance to this activity, to advance to these activities. It's not a straight line by any means. In fact, they went out of their way to say, we're going to tell you what we'd kind of recommend you do, but it's definitely up to you. Like, the game will say, okay, you should probably start doing strikes, but if you want to start grinding public events, there is nothing stopping you. And speaking of public events, they were actually shown off via the maps in the trailer. Now, before we've known in other news that there's actually going to be timers in-game at public events, and you can see kind of this orange line around the diamond that shows how much longer the public event is remaining for, and that's really cool and really intuitive on the map. But we also got to see today what rewards you can get, and it looks like you're getting honestly what is kind of in the game right now, which is a rare engram and a legendary engram. Now, that's interesting because we've just found out very recently that in Destiny 2, there's going to be no more random perks on weapon rolls. There's going to be just dedicated rolls. So that's really interesting. Like, if you're getting legendaries just from doing public events, can Bungie keep up with having dedicated roles? They're going to have a lot of loot in the game to justify getting loot arguably that easily. So that's a very interesting question that we're going to have to, I guess, just wait and see. Now, something else that was unveiled by this map was a location on Nessus, Exodus Black. Now, why does that matter? Well, Exodus Black in the lore is the name of the colony ship that was potentially carrying SIVA. So yeah, SIVA on a Vex-controlled planet. That is a really big deal. That is just, like, the Fallen got up to some shenanigans with SIVA. Imagine that in the hands of the Vex. So that will definitely be coming up, if not in Destiny, then for sure in expansion, because they wouldn't just randomly put that colony ship in Nessus. So that is really, really interesting. And we've already seen a crashed colony ship in some of the screenshots and art for Nessus. So we know one is there, but this confirms that it is the fabled Exodus Black. Now, another thing that got unveiled in this interview, perhaps unintentionally, was that in the background gameplay, the player went into his inventory and you could clearly see that there was only one other subclass slot available. Now, this is relevant news because previously, as you can see here, there was a nabbed screenshot with 2 subclass slots available. So people were maybe thinking, well, is it going to launch with 2 different subclasses you can choose aside from the one you start with? So 3 in total, like Destiny 1 ended with. Or is it going to only launch with 2 subclasses per class like Destiny 1 started with? Well, considering the fact that they literally took out the subclass slot, like, leaving it in is one thing, and in fact, in Destiny 1, you had an empty subclass slot for the longest time. But the fact that they took it out is really not looking good, and also, we haven't heard a single thing. We haven't even really seen anything about the Taken King subclasses. We actually have seen, I shouldn't say we haven't seen anything, we have seen the characters holding fists of the different elements. And by that I mean, like, during a promotional trailer, we saw a Warlock holding a fist of Arc, right? So that would represent the Arc subclass. Does it actually represent the Stormcaller returning? Not necessarily, but that's all we've seen, is the 3 different subclasses holding the elements of the missing subclasses. So it doesn't look like the Taken King subclasses will be there for Destiny 2's launch, and certainly they aren't there for the beta, but I'll bring you guys any more news on that issue as I get it. And for me, this is somewhat disappointing. I would love to have 3 subclasses at the get-go, and then maybe a 4th and heck 5th added with DLC. But in fairness, that may be asking a lot from a base game. Remember, if you're comparing it to Destiny, you're comparing it to Destiny with 4 expansions. This is just the vanilla game. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Now, moving on from there, we have even more information because Bungie also released their weekly update. Now, firstly, a little bit of more information involving the Destiny 2 beta. So, things that you should not expect for the beta. We pretty much know everything going into the beta so far about what to expect, but they kind of clarified some things that you shouldn't expect. Number 1, clan support. There's going to be no true clan support in the Destiny 2 beta. There will be in the full game, but not in the beta. After that, character progression. You'll receive rewards for defeating your enemies, be they Cabal, Vex, or other Guardians, but the beta does not represent how characters will evolve in Destiny 2. And what that really means is that there's going to be a low level cap likely. For example, in the Destiny 1 beta, you could only get to level 8, and that was it out of 20. So it's likely going to be somewhat similar in Destiny 2 beta. So they're just saying, hey, don't expect a full level up system. It's going to be very limited. And number 3, they said, character continuity. So Destiny 2, the full game, is a complete launch. You're starting from scratch. You will not get anything that you earned in the beta except for this emblem. This is the beta emblem that you get if you did participate in the Destiny 2 beta and then buy the full game. Now, moving on from there, we have some information about the next Bungie bounty. It's an event where if you match with the featured content creator and win in PvP, you earn an exclusive emblem, and if you match against them and beat them, you also earn that emblem. It's against Zombies Factory in the region of France at 11 a.m. Pacific on July 12th, 2017, console PlayStation 4, and the playlist is Clash. Now, actually, another very interesting thing, and the last thing we're going to talk about today, is that, well, tomorrow at the time I'm recording this, but the time is actually going to come out, today, July 7th, is Bungie Day, which was a fan-created holiday to commemorate Bungie. Now, Deej did say that it's a ritual created by community. Like all of your best traditions, we're happy to help them continue to burn bright. Come back tomorrow, July 7th. We'll have some ways for you to celebrate and express yourselves. That could be very interesting, and I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe an exclusive emote? Who knows? He also said, we might even have a beta code to hand out for those of you who outshine your fellow citizens. So clearly there's something planned for Bungie Day, so be looking out for what that is. Guys, that's it for the current Destiny 2 news. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative. Now, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content, be sure to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.